simple things that you can do self-defense wise. If you have a stick or a broom handle or a mop or a bow staff or a Joe staff, we like to use the Joe staffs. They're a little bit shorter than the bow staffs. They're not as long, and it's easy to find something like this, like a broom or a shovel or something like that, and you can use this as an extension for your self-defense. The good thing about this that you have is it's going to give you some distance and some control over the distance. So what I like to do first is just hold it normally, not threatening. If he picks it up in like a fighting position like this, it's going to be a little bit more offensive, and it's going to get me a little bit not wanting to commit. But if you're just kind of holding it there, obviously the first thing that we have is attacking to the groin, similar like we would use for our long lead leg front snap kick. So as I'm stepping in, he's just going to step back and he's going to push down and pull up, throwing the strike to the groin. So as I'm reaching in, maybe I'm trying to grab or push, he's going to step back and he's going to throw that shot right up underneath the groin. Once you hit that, again, you can continue with more strikes, or you can get out of there. You don't want to leave it there so that he can grab it. But again, if I'm focused so much up here, maybe I'm trying to reach for it. Even if I go to reach for that, he can pull it away from me, which is going to draw me in a little bit more, and he has that strike to the groin. He can step back and pull it back and create that distance from there. Another way that you can use without moving it too much from this position is using the front end of the stick, especially if I close the gap too quick where he can't get that bottom in there. He's going to shove that front part up, whether it's going towards my chin, or if he really wanted to extend it like a punch, he can catch it to where it's going towards the chest. And he can even lift it up. Problem when you lift it up off the ground is you have to watch that there's not a lot of stability to it. So what I like to do is lock it to my heel with my foot and put it on a nice little bit of an angle. He should have a good stance, which is giving him a lot of support, and the foot is supporting the base, so it's not going to slide all over the place. But again, once he strikes with that, he wants to not leave it there. He wants to strike it, and then he can counter back to the groin after that. So if he goes up high, boom, and then he can pull it back and strike to the groin as he's there. Again, as I'm coming in, whether I'm trying to reach for it or I'm stepping in, I'm going to get hit with that. And again, if I try to grab it, or as he retreats, he's just going to pull it back, strike into the groin. So we'll do the first one, regular strike to the groin. And then next one, using the tip of it towards the chest, following up with the strike to the groin. Another way you can use it from this position, again, where you're holding it, you don't want to have too much where you're not holding it, you don't have anything at the top, you don't want to be too low. So you want to have a little bit of space so that you can use that, but we're going to use it for our block this time. So he's going to hold it in his hand, whether I'm trying to reach or whether I'm punching. We're going to do this off of a grab. You're going to use the hard surface of the bow staff, trying to hit towards the bony part of the wrist. So as I go to reach for him, he's going to rotate his body, and he's going to use the hard part of the stick. And you want to focus more aiming towards the wrist. You could hit towards the radial nerve or the forearm, but you want to kind of hit more bone on bone, or the hardwood on the bone, which is going to send that little shock wave right up the wrist. And again, you can always counter after that to the groin as well. So he's just going to turn himself sideways so that I can't reach him. He's going to strike down with that front part, and then he's going to strike to the groin. So he's going to go one and then pull it back for two. So again, using the lower half or the upper part, really simple, just from a regular position type grip where you don't have to get into a traditional fighting stance with it. Another way you can block, especially if it's off of a strong punch. So if I'm holding this and he's just reaching for a grab, again, I can use that front part here to strike towards that wrist. It's not that threatening. If it was a hard punch, I don't want to risk hitting with this where it's going to either fall right in or it's going to slip by and hit me in the face. So I want to use the back side of it. So when he goes to punch, I'm going to step back and I'm going to circle it back down. I'm going to strike as hard as I can right on that wrist. Again, we can block parry off of that after. After you come in, you're going to step back, boom, good. And you're going to think about, because your distance with the stick compared to my arm, you need to give yourself enough space. So just stick your hand out there. You know, if you're trying to punch me here, if I step back just a little bit, I'm not going to hit your punch, I'm going to hit you, which is fine. But if I want to hit your hand, I need to step back a lot further so that I can really hit that hand, and then I can come back in with whatever. So you want to make sure that you're using that space, you know, really get back to strike that. Again, you could connect a little bit. And then once you block from here, again, you could counter right off with a nice poke to the face or strike to the head. But you want to use that distance. If you have this weapon that I can use all this space, and then he punches, and I'm way out here, and then I come back in to use it, I'm jamming myself up. So I want to use the reach that the weapon has. So again, if I'm just standing normal, he goes to punch me really hard, I'm stepping back, I want to circle this down on a little bit of an angle, moving that hand to the side. Again, I can give him a quick little poke to the face, and I can get out of there if I need to. Okay. So now, if he was able to step back, that's what you want. If I'm throwing that hard punch and he doesn't have the time and space to move, the strike's going to go to the side of the head. So I'm going to use the other side to kind of block his hand, and this one's going to be blocking towards or striking towards the jaw. So when he goes to punch, I'm stepping more here, and I'm almost like I'm putting it up like a shield. I want to have the lower half protecting my head, and that other side should be striking towards the neck and the jaw. So if he's punching at me, I want to kind of block with the bow staff and come across with the strike from there. I can go low and I can get back out after that. And boom, boom. So again, as I'm coming in, he wants to step back straight towards that wall as he shoves both hands out this way. This one's going to strike to the jaw. This is going to act as a barrier to block my punch. He doesn't normally, we want to keep it close and locked here, but that's going to give him an opening. He wants to focus on hitting my face first instead of blocking my strike, because he has that distance and that reach. And again, keeping those arms nice and straight, striking from here. Now once he goes from there, he can strike underneath to the bottom, he can go to the groin, or he can even move the hand. He could strike, boom. Now since he's on the inside, if he rotates and bring it up and bring my hand down, he can bring me down so he's to the negative side from there. So you block and then swing it over. Boom. So another one that we're going to do is we're going to use that lower half to strike underneath the arm of that hook punch. So as I'm going to throw that hook punch, he's going to step back on a 45 to give him the space, but he's just going to pull that stick up just like he did for the strike to the groin, but this time it's going to aim for the nerve center underneath the tricep. So he's going to step back, he's going to strike right underneath, but then he wants to finish by following it over to kind of guide it the rest of the way. Again, for speed reasons, I'm stopping, but even if I throw it fast, he just wants to kind of pass it over to the other side to get from the positive side where he can get struck by the other hand. He wants to get to the negative side. So as I'm coming in, he's going to strike it, boom, knock it over, and then from there, he can strike back from there. So again, as I strike, he's going to step back, guide it over, and then from there, he can strike, counter strike, whatever you want from there. Okay, so now we'll just do a couple simple takedowns after we do those entries. So we're going to go back to the first one where he's going to strike to the groin. As I step in, I'm going to reach for him. He's going to step back, strike to the groin. And then he's going to try to stab it towards the back of my heel so I can't back up. Keeping that pressure against the inside of my knee. Again, he can go high up by the thigh, but you're not, I could resist it a lot more pushing. You know, it's a lot easier for me to resist. But if he goes towards the knee or towards the ankle, you're going to get a lot better. But he doesn't want to stay here where I can strike. He wants to kind of just straighten his arm out this way, and then just kind of walk towards the door that way. So I strike. So as I step here, I want to just kind of keep walking this way. So almost like you're kind of kneeling towards that corner. So I strike to the groin, I step, see I'm stepping over here, and then once I get here, I want to take my hand and my foot at the same time and just kind of walk through to the groin, boom, stab it through. Once it gets here, take a step through. So this one's going to be off of the grab. He's going to strike towards the wrist. So as he hits the wrist, he wants to give it a little bit of a shot where he's kind of hitting it and snapping it to shoot that pain up to my wrist. He's going to kind of pinch it onto my own hand. So he wants to kind of hold my hand with his thumb as he comes across with that strike towards the side of the jaw. As he does it, he wants to step behind my foot. Now from this position, he can sweep my foot and push. And now from here, if you go there, stay up where you're at, he can use the bow staff to control me. So this way. By just pushing it down and then kneeling on it, if you wanted to control me from there. Or if he doesn't want to do the sweep, he still wants to get in that position, but then he's going to rotate towards the opposite corner. So he shoots the strike to my wrist, holds it as he strikes up here, as he steps through. Now from this position, instead of sweeping the foot, he's just striking and shifting his stance all the way to that opposite corner. So he strikes up top. So now when you go to do that though, once you hit here, as you strike, step through. So strike the wrist, step through with that, and then now just rotate your, there you go. Strike, and then rotate. So he's going to block it, pull across, boom. Now from this position, he can sweep the foot, boom, and then use this to pin me down. And now the other one, he's just going to rotate, so he strikes the wrist, pulls it back up, boom. So as he gets in here, instead of sweeping, he's just going to shift his stance as he strikes down from there. Okay, so now we're going to do a takedown off of the hook punches. So the first one we did was he's going to step back and strike down on the wrist. So as my punch comes in, he's going to step back, striking, hitting that forearm down, which gives him the time to close this space. Now, as he's doing it, he could just hit with the bow staff to the side of the face from here. He could also poke it forward. He could also just hold the bow staff and strike me with his forearm to the face as he comes in. Boom. So he can strike with even though he has the bow staff in his hand, he can strike with that nice hard forearm if he wanted to, or even the elbow. So he's stepping back and really striking this hand down. And then again, he can strike from here, he can strike forward with the forearm, or he can just poke with the stick. But now he's going to kind of hook and pull me down. So he's getting me into our pizza flip position. One hand is kind of pushing this bow staff straight against my arm so that I can't pull it down. If he had his hand back here, it's easy for me to get my hand out. So he wants to straighten that arm out so that it's hard for me to push it down, because it's hard for me to bring my hand farther back. Now this hand is striking down, almost like if he was hitting the bow into my head. He wants to strike that down, and he wants to step through as he does it to project me forward. Step back and strike it down, hit through, boom, circle it, and step through. Again, stepping back, really striking it down, shooting it right back off with some sort of soften up, and immediately trying to get this hand pushed back. So you want to kind of straighten this arm out from there. Again, he could knee if he wanted to. He could strike with his elbow. But now he could step back. If he feels me trying to go forward, he could step back with this foot and scoop me down. Or he could step through. I like to step across because it's going to stop me from being able to go forward. So he strikes my hand down, shoots back up, Boom. He hooks my arm and pulls my head down. Now, so that I can't get at him, he's going to cut through between him and I with that foot and take me down from there. And then now this one off the hook punch is going to be striking underneath the arm. He's going to step back, strike and lift. As he hits, he wants to hit and pass it over. And just like before, don't step too far in front, just circle it with the arm. So he wants to hit and then guide it around. Once it comes to here, again, he could pull the bow staff back and hit me with the bow. He could pull it back and poke me with the bow, or he can step in and hit me with that forearm again. Step behind, right with that jaw. And again, keeping control of this, he wants to kind of pin it down, so now he can't get this arm up. Again, if he had it out, I can reach underneath, my elbow could come up, so he wants to kind of lock this in and keep me pinned in this position. Now he can kick that foot out as he pulls this back, boom, and sweep me down, or he can shift and rotate. So he strikes underneath the arm, passes it down, comes back in. Now, if he gets in this position, even if he tries to do the sweep, and I get a little off balance, now I'm going to keep this nice and tight towards you, step forward with that foot as you spin around. Because of the stick, it's harder to pull back. So if he gets in that position, passes it, and he hits. Now, if he just tried to step back with this foot and pull me back with this, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's a lot harder. But now he also moves that foot, move the foot, so that I can get out. So by stepping forward, he keeps my leg kind of pinned, and he can spin around me instead of trying to pull me back. Again, if this was, if you were just striking with it, you can just hit him and pull that right back down, just like you're trying to stab behind you, and you'll still get the same effect. But if we want to control him, we want to kind of spin around him. So he redirects my strike, hits me with this bottom, now pins it in, locking it towards his body, so that now this arm can't come up. He's got me pinned here. Now keeping this foot here, he's just going to step forward and circle it. So you pass it around, straight, pin it down, and then just walk forward. Right under, boom, pass it, boom, sorry, yep, you're fine. Step. So a lot of these techniques are just using the stick for the advantage that it has. It gives us distance, and the striking surface, no matter how it's turned, the concentration of force is the same. This doesn't feel any pain like my arm would, and it does a lot more damage that kind of hits right through to the bone because of the concentration of force. But everything that you could normally do without it, you're just using it with the bow staff in your hands. So a lot of those techniques, if he threw his hook punch, I could pass this around, and I could be doing the same type of things with my arms. I could be doing the same type of things with my arms from here. He comes in, I could strike this down, come back off, and now we're into those pizza flips and those types of positions that we were before. He comes in with his grab, and I move his hand to the side, same type of positions using my legs, but now I have the added bonus of using a weapon if I have it. Depending on the reach, depending on the size and the length of the tool that you have, use it to your advantage. Distance changes, and it's just an extension of your body. So those are just a couple of techniques that you can think about when you're using a Joe staff and a bow staff. Think about that next time when you're doing your bow form or your empty-handed self-defense.